Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your host for today's broadcast, Insane Layer 13. Right now, we are preparing to get underway for the first round of what I believe is 7 different rounds of qualifying here for TORA's 24 Hours at Daytona event that will be starting in about 8 days' time. Now, I'm not partaking in the race as a driver, but I will hopefully be able to bring you some of the coverage for some of the mid-category lobbies throughout the event. In today's event, we are going to be seeing everyone take to the track for about 45 minutes. Drivers are not required to go at full pace the entire 45 minutes. They can pull over and stop if they want. At the end of the 45 minutes, though, everyone is required to stop in the runoff of turn 1, so the lobby host, Just Unku, can go ahead and record all of the lap times from the event. So with that in mind, let's real quickly look at some of the drivers here that will be partaking. Apologies for that, had to take care of something real quickly. That was slightly embarrassing. So, as we look through our list, first up we have our lobby host, Just Unku. I'm not sure if he's actually qualifying in this lobby or if he's just hosting it. We'll see that a little bit later. But a driver we do know is going to be qualifying is going to be EVR Cactus, representing Ford in his very, very uniquely early 80s styled Ford Capri. Then you have AMS Andrew, who is representing Jaguar. He is going to be joined by SF Michaels, who is also riding a Jaguar. Different Jaguar, though. He is in the Swordfish Jaguar, which is the same paint design, but not the same number as Unku's machine. Then you have Blocktoberfest, who is in the Porsche 956. Gonna be very interesting. Typically, we don't see these big, high-performance Porsche 963s from the 80s running in TORA events, so a little bit of a unique little change in pace. Normally, these cars are considered too fast and too broken to run. DMS Jarbs is representing Jaguar as well. NWR Origin is also going to be there in addition. We also have NWRC, who's going to be representing the 1979 Datsun 280ZX turbo machine. I'm not sure if there's actually a hiccup when it comes to the paint or if they just haven't finished the paint yet, but that's what the car looks like right now. Then you have Apex Kimmy. He is going to be representing the Apex team in the number 45 Jaguar. PTG Little Caesar, who has been a semi-regular feature in the ISE GT3 Championship, is representing the 666 Red Lobster Jaguar prototype. Apex Fuego is going to be representing Jaguar as well. So will AMS Kenpachi Ramasama. And then Zoroliak, who is going to be in the Porsche number 90, the 1974 Porsche at that. So this is a pre-turbo Porsche. 1983 Porsche prototype, though, is going to see Toaster Lord YouTube, or Toaster Lord YT, right in it in the number 4 machine. Absolutely love that design. Dr. Chair, PhD, not to be confused with Dr. Table or Professor Sofa, is going to be representing the Porsche in the GT category as well. Apex Fiat is our first Ferrari representative that we've seen today. He is going to be in the number 54 Apex GT machine. And EMC Mooterman, I'm sorry, I completely botched your name. EMC Motoman is going to be representing Chevrolet as they are running the C3, the 1976 one-off that ran at Le Mans and a few other choice events in that year. Right now, we're just waiting to see if anyone else is going to end up jumping in or not. But right now, those are the 17, possibly only 16, but I think Unku is going to be qualifying. That would be the 17 drivers who will take to the track in today's session. From what I understand, all contact is off. So you do not have to worry about getting someone's draft and having that massively improve your lap time. It's going to be 100% driver ability and what their team has gotten them for tunes. We will try and talk with our fastest GT qualifier and our fastest prototype qualifier at the end of the session, but I'm not going to guarantee that we will actually be able to make anything like that happen today. It's also going to be a lot more of a chilled and relaxed stream. This stream will probably only last for an hour or just a little bit more. So nothing too high performance to look forward to. One thing that should be noted though, we are at Daytona. We have not been at Daytona for TORA for a bit over a year now, and when it last was done, it was in Forza Motorsport 7. It was with more modern, well, I say modern, it was 2010s era, but it was more modern GTs and prototypes, so going back and doing something that's a real blast from the past, something that I'm honestly very heavily looking forward to. I had the pleasure of covering all 9 hours of the 9 hours of Kalami in the C lobby a few months back, and whether or not you like TORA or don't like TORA, you like the drivers, you don't like the drivers, the general physics in the game have significantly improved, and it makes on-track racing significantly better in this game than it was in the last game. Kalami was an absolute treat, and I really look forward to seeing what the racing is going to be like here at Daytona, where drafting has a big impact, and drafting in this game actually functions. It doesn't function perfect. I think they've gone a little bit too far with the most recent update, but drafting actually has that impact that makes overtaking a lot more impactful. Now, at the top, in the A lobby category, we'll likely still see the majority of drivers still going hardcore sweat mode. They're not going to be talking. They're not going to be racing for position. Everyone's just trying to min-max distances, minimize pit stops, maximize distance. That's all going to come down to. But once you get out of A and B lobby, you get down to C lobbies and down below there's a lot of glory on the line. Being able to say, yes, I won a stint in a TORA event can sometimes be one of the biggest achievements for many of the people. That's what I'm going to hopefully be looking at when we get around to broadcasting for TORA's 24 Hours at Daytona in 8 days' time. Right now, they're still waiting on Apex Kimmy to ready up along with Zeroiliac, so we're going to try and get a ad break removed now so it doesn't interrupt us in the broadcast itself. So we're still standing by here at Daytona, waiting for our host of 17 drivers to load onto the circuit here. Everyone is readied up now. I'm really interested to see how many people are actually going to go really hard and try to cram out or rip out a blistering lap in the very first few minutes and then leave. It is a 45-minute session. Here we are, as we are finally beginning to load onto the circuit proper in today's event. Also, normally I wouldn't do this, but I do have the chat open on the side on my PC, so I can actually interact with chat for this. I won't usually do that when I stream, but I can make an exception now because in qualifying, normally things are not as high tempo and high priority. Also, I will not be covering the other qualifying stints in the series. However, there will be at least 2 other stints that will be broadcasted for Daytona 24-hour qualifying. I believe one of them will be taking place in about 6 hours time on another person's channel later today. So keep an eye on that if you are interested. intervals does not really help us, but we don't exactly have a way to look at what the best lap time is, sadly, with the way the game is currently set up. One of the very few features that I do wish we got back in the entire game. But right now, DMS Jarbs, representing Jaguar, immediately rushes out ahead of the entire field. The same that a lot of drivers seem to be in stock paints. I'm guessing that a lot of teams just do not have paints finalized for this event here. There is one driver who is already pulled over on the circuit on the back straightaway, and that is PTG Little Caesar, who appears to have pulled over. Let's just make sure he's not damaged. No, it's not that he's damaged. It looks like he has pulled over in order to try and get as clean of a track as possible. Now, while it is in ghost mode, some drivers like to have no one else on track around them when they do their runs. Just Unku is also going to do the same thing and pull off just a little bit past well, actually just a little bit before the bus stop chicane, so I guess Ozran and Unku is not going to be doing a flying lap here. Right now, AMS Kenpachi, according to the game, is being recorded as the fastest driver on circuit right now, joined by Apex Kimmy 7 and DMS Jarbs. Kenpachi representing the Jaguar team in today's event, and will be representing, well, one of the Jaguar teams in the event that will come in about 8 days here. Sharing the track with Kimmy, there is a advantage, might be a slightly overstated, but there is a advantage to not pulling over and immediately taking to the circuit. It's that you sort of dictate your own pace. If you don't back off, if you don't pull over and you're just flying, you don't have to worry about catching slower traffic as the session goes on. Now, this is supposed to be a 45-minute session, roughly, so more than likely we will see prototypes catching GTs if no one is pitting, but more than likely I imagine the majority of drivers here will make at least one pit stop, if not multiple pit stops across the event. So as they cross the line, DMS Jarbs, Kimmy, and Kenpachi still running at the top, but it looks like Kimmy was just slightly faster, and Fuego is also slightly faster than Kenpachi. So it seems like the Apex team is starting to show up in force right now. Also credit to SF Michaels and PTG Little Caesar, who is now briefly at the top of the lineup. Yeah, 9 drivers in the session representing the prototype field. The other 7 are representing, the other 6 are, well no, it is 7, the other 7 are representing the GT category, and right now in the GT category, the fastest driver is here in the Datsun NWR Stevie. Datsun's definitely a very interesting car to drive. It has a very interesting setup. We don't see very many drivers do this. This was a very, very common and popular way to set up cars in the last game. Slam the rear and then either using ride height adjustments or speed adjustments, basically have the nose angled up into the sky. The big advantage of doing that is by going ahead and putting all the air, sucking air underneath the front of the car, and basically using the pressure differential to suck the car lower to the ground. In theory, it will give it a little bit of a ride downforce and let it accelerate better in real life. In Forza, which isn't a perfect one-to-one copy of real-life physics, it still will usually give you a little bit better acceleration, and in some circumstances, it will do some better turning as well. This style of car setup fell out of popularity a bit with Forza Motorsport 8's dropping, although there are some drivers who have still stuck with it, as you can see right now with Stevie. But he has been beat on the timesheets right now by Toaster Lord. No, I'm sorry, not Toaster Lord. Did I? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there are only 6 drivers in the GTs. Okay, so Blocktoberfest and Toaster Lord must have really been holding back for a long, long time then. I apologize for that. And PTT Little Caesar is going to go ahead and jump into the pit lane as he has already burned up all the fuel in his car, and they're going to have to refill. Now, how much fuel are we looking at them putting in? It says 20%. Again, these are not full race runs. These are just qualifying hot laps that these drivers are doing. You go out there, you go really far until you feel the tires have fallen off, then you pit and you rip out the old tires, you slap on some new tires, and you get back onto the circuit. Little Caesar's the first one to pit, but he's joined now by Jarbs, Kimmy, and Kimpachi Rampasamba. So AMS Andrew, who is fourth fastest, is going to stay on circuit for the moment. But how much longer is he going to stay on? He's going to try and make a little lap of it as he slaps the outside wall there in the middle of the corners, and now is coming down pit lane. So the fastest GT driver at the moment is Zeroiliak, representing the Porsche number 90. Again, this is one of the older Porsches, older 911s, not as super powerful, but they do have a decent amount of weight balancing in the car. Well, a decent amount if you like rear-engined cars. They don't have the extreme excessive amounts of power that you normally think of 911s having from the 80s and on when they started slapping gigantic turbos on them. And NWR Stevie has now gone faster than Zeroiliak at this moment. So Stevie in the Datsun and Zeroiliak in the Porsche trading back and forth for the honors of being the fastest driver on the circuit at the moment, it would appear. And then there's always the question of what's the slowest. Well, right now that designation seems to go to EVR Cactus, representing the Ford Capri, and it just does not seem like he's having a great time. He's got the period accurate paint, but it does not seem like he's got a whole lot of speed in the machine compared to a lot of his other rivals. He is 3 seconds off the pace of Zeroiliak at the moment. He's not that far. He's about half a second behind this man here, EMC Motoman, who's representing the Chevrolet machine. Chevy has a very similar body design cue to the Nissan, but the Nissan has a 4-banger with some gigantic turbos. Motoman is in a Chevrolet that has naturally aspirated V8 power. And the nose of that car is perfectly shaped in a wedge, so if he hits someone from behind at high enough speed, he could honestly lift them into the air. I say that because I've had that happen before. This thing works way too well like a wedge, to be fully honest. Apex Fiat in the GTO machine, in the Ferrari, the lone Ferrari we have in this session. I believe we have 2 Ferraris. Currently running around with a time that is about 4 seconds off his Zeroiliak, but he'll probably cut that down a little bit here. But right now it seems like Zeroiliak and Dr. Cher are pretty much on top of each other as NWR Stevie and AMS Kimpachi Rampasamba finally go ahead and come into the pits. But at the top, apparently, PTG Little Caesar, his entire strategy to get away from everyone else just running clean air seems to be working for him. He is currently the fastest of the prototypes on circuit in that Red Lobster. We can now officially call it Dead Lobster in the Red Lobster machine. I'll be interested to see what the rest of the drivers on his team can make happen. DMS Jarb is currently the 2nd fastest at the moment as he makes his way through the bus stop chicane. And WR Origin coming into the pits right now, as is SF Michaels. Not really any information I can really glean from having that, so I'll just shrink the size of the thing down. But yeah, now Little Caesar having to deal with a bit of traffic. Not prototype traffic, it is GT traffic. And it's not exactly going to let up anytime soon. Now, he did put a lot of fuel in that car good 20%, so he'll be dealing with this traffic for a while. And it could end up being a distraction for him. Meanwhile, look here at Apex Kimmy, and it's really not much different. He's also dealing with traffic. So now we've gone through the first 10 or so minutes of the qualifying session. Everyone's kind of spread out and diced up, and if you're in the prototype category, it's going to feel like you're catching some sort of traffic almost every other lap. So getting a perfect lap now is going to come down to either getting lucky or being so comfortable that traffic is no longer a distraction for you. Real quickly, I want to look at the two Porsche prototypes that are qualifying right now. Oktoberfest in that Domino's Pizza sponsored machine, number 23. Banging it out, coming out of the hairpin corner right now. And running into the first infield hairpin. I say hairpin, it's really just turn one. Although turn one does feel like a hairpin, when it comes to sheer angles and size, it's not truly a hairpin, but it absolutely drives a lot like a hairpin, considering it's one of the fastest corners you'll have in all of endurance racing right now. But big thing to me, at least, and I don't know if this is going to necessitate a change later on, but big thing to me is that right now the Jaguars seem to be pretty solidly faster than the Porsches. There is not a single Porsche ahead of any of the Jaguars when it comes to the prototype class right now. So that seems pretty interesting to me. A little bit hard to tell what the gaps are because you don't have a way to see what the best times are. Fastest lap, 1:31.3. Well, fastest lap right now for Oktoberfest, who is in the fastest Porsche, is a 1:31.3. Apex Fuego, who is the slowest Jaguar at the moment, has set out a 1:31.3 as well. His last lap, in fact, was the 31.342. Now, I know that some people might say, well, the times are only going to get faster as it goes on. According to the document I looked at about 30 minutes before the race started, rubbering is not turned on, and the track is not going to be experiencing any time change. So in-game, it is a 1 p.m. time, and that time is not going to change, and the track started at 50% rubbering and is not going to change from that. Apparently, Oktoberfest has now gone faster than Fuego, but it does seem like there is some significant gap between the Jaguar and the Porsches when it comes to performance right now. Little Caesar in the 28.7s at the moment, while Oktoberfest is about 4 seconds of drift, well, 3.5 seconds of drift, and a 31.2 right now. So some pretty significant gaps in the field when it comes to the prototype categories at the moment. Fastest in the GTs right now, the fight continues to be between Stevie Zarorliak and Dr. Cher. Dr. Cher is a Porsche driver, as is Zarorliak. Cher is in the number 90 Porsche, while Zarorliak is also in the 90 Porsche. So Zarorliak and Cher, teammates, you only need to have 2 of your team's drivers qualify as the average. And it looks like Zarorliak and Dr. Cher are trying to get their entire teams qualifying knife out early on here. Not have to worry about it again for the next 8 days and just focus only on race pace. Personally, I feel that's a strong benefit. I know there are a lot of teams, a lot of drivers, especially once you get to the really big groups like the LMP guys or the ESV guys. A lot of them are very focused on putting off qualifying to the last 2 possible sessions. The idea behind that is usually that it is a benefit to go ahead and run real aggressively on trying to push for qualifying times to get into the stint that you want, or the lobby you want, not the stint you want, the lobby that you want, and then you can make it up later in the race. I personally don't feel it really changes much. There will be some people and some tuners that might be able to get cars to go an entire lobby faster, but for the most part, you're pretty much locked into the lobby you're going to be in, and barring a significant accident or incident in the first 2 or 3 laps, typically, everyone will cycle out where they're actually going to be in pace very early on in a TORA stint, and I think it is more impactful to just go for race time performance than trying to min-max what the lobbies are going to be like. and try to min-max your positioning in the lobbies. But irregardless, that is a matter of opinion. I've also not run in a TORA Enduro properly since 2021, so my opinion may be outdated. One other thing that is not outdated though, EVR Cactus, I'm sorry, I said EVR Cactus. I said earlier, he was the slowest. That has not changed. EVR Cactus, his best lap has only been a 144.1 at the moment. That is 7/10 off of Moto Man's, whose best lap was a 143.4. And then Fiat, who is representing the Ferrari, who is in a 43.3. So Cactus seems to be quite a bit adrift from the rest of the field right now, while it is Porsches and Datsuns who are at the head of the GT fight at the moment. Okay, yeah. So, Little Caesar's still at the top, 28.7, and Kimi, who is second on circuit, 29.5. So PTG absolutely has something figured out when it comes to setup at the moment. And if I was in the PTG camp, I would be feeling pretty confident considering that one of your better drivers are dominating the first round of qualifying right now. As one Apex machine in Kimi 7 overtakes the other in the form of Apex Fiat. But what we're going to do here is I'm going to go ahead. No, that's not what I want, game. I want to turn the player code off. We're going to go ahead and ride on board for a full flying lap with PTG Little Caesar, so you get an idea of what a flying lap looks like here around Daytona. That's a flying lap on board with PTG Little Caesar in Satan's Dead Lobster machine, currently at the top of the sheets. It's a bit of a shame because I really like that paint. It's minimalistic, it's simple, but it's got a nice charm to it, but more than likely I'm not going to be able to see it in whatever session it's going to be ran in. So anyways, we're going to take a real quick ad break, and then when we come back, we'll ride on board with one of the GT cars before focusing once again on what the shakeout looks like for the session. Alright, well, we are back here at Daytona as we currently are riding on board NWR Stevie's Datsun. He is currently the fastest of all of the GT entrants at the moment. And assuming he's not going to be pitting this upcoming lap, we are going to spend a full lap on board with Stevie and get a good idea as to what his laps really look like. And we'll try to do it again a little later with one of the Porsche drivers, so you really get a feel as to how much different the cars perform around the circuit. But until that time, we're going to go silent for about a minute and 40 seconds or so as we ride with Stevie around this famed super speedway. Well, that was a full lap on board with NWR Stevie in his Datsun as currently second on the list. Stevie, Cher, and Zoroliak have been swapping the fastest GT spot amongst them pretty often over the last few laps here. You see right now, the fastest lap by Stevie is a 42 flat. Compare that to Dr. Cher, who currently has the fastest in the GTs, is a 41.883, and then Zoroliak is currently with a 42.291. But it does look like we're at the stage of qualifying where everyone's really performed to the best of their abilities. We have an idea of where everyone's lap times are going to be. No one's going to pull out a crazy lap out of anywhere that's a second faster. Now it's just going to be a matter of maximizing the sectors of the circuit and making sure that you aren't leaving anything on the table. This can be honestly the most aggravating part of it because it's not just a Sunday drive. You're not just, running around trying to see what the car feels like as the tires go off or as the fuel load burns off. You have to be pushing and be on top of your A game lap after lap after lap. In these long, prolonged qualifying sessions like this, it can be even more mentally taxing than the race itself because you're not allowed to back off or calm down at all. And even if you do, even if you messed up turn one on a lap so much that you know you can't make it, you spend the rest of the lap not relaxing and trying to prep for another go. You spend the entire rest of the lap angered and frustrated at yourself for the lack of performance overall. Credit where credit is due, though. ETC Moto Man has moved himself up to 15th on the sheets. He has been in the 15th spot for a while, but he is still above EVR Cactus, who seems to not be able to perform at all. Credit to Cactus, though. Cactus's last lap was a 43.750, and that has been a significant improvement compared to where he was earlier. 43.7 means he's now only 4/10 off of the fastest lap by Fiat, and only, well, also 4/10 off of Motoman's best lap. So not only could Motoman maybe clip Fiat for a time in the next few moments here, Cactus, if he continues to slowly improve as the session goes on, might be able to clip them before it is over. Race timer up at the top was set at an hour, but realistically the session is only 45 minutes long. So realistically, we have gone through about half of this event's, a little more than half of this qualifying session's distance. We have about 18 minutes and 27 seconds left. And again, like I said earlier, I will try to talk with several of the drivers after the qualifying session is over, get post-race interviews in, if any of them care to or want to give a post-race interview. Unlike a typical tour event where everyone has to go really hard and checking the distance at the end of the stint, here it should just be a matter of making sure all the times are recorded. Toaster Lord YT still has yet to get out of the 132 flats. The next closest prototype to him, Fuego, is in the 131 flat. So for Toaster Lord YT, it is absolutely looking atrocious for him right now, a full second off of Fuego's time. And then Fuego is only running about 300ths off of Blocktoberfest at the moment. So while the number 23 Japanese Domino's Pizza Porsche is currently 8th on the sheets, Fuego is poised to, at almost any moment, clip him and go past him and steal the 8th fastest time. And again, I have to wonder, is the problem with the Jaguar being too fast? Is the problem that the Porsche got nerfed too hard? Is it not a car problem? It's just that none of the faster prototype drivers who are running the Porsche are in the first qualifying session. Could that be it? Could it just be that we're looking at a wonky sample size of the 10 different prototype drivers trying to get a qualifying lap in right now? 8 of them are in the Jaguars and only 2 of them are in Porsches. So maybe it's just we're looking at a really rough sampling size right now. But you see that difference. You see that scenario where Blocktoberfest, the fastest Porsche in this session, is barely holding even with Fuego. And compared to Little Caesar, who is at the top, you're looking at a difference of a difference of 1.3 seconds in fastest lap time. So I will give Blocktoberfest credit. The gap has closed. He's gotten closer to Caesar's speed, but still 1.3 seconds a lap, and that's on a peak lap that has nothing on what the actual race performance is going to be. Racing, you're not going to be going 100% lap in, lap out, lap in, lap out. A lot more of it is just going to be calm down, and you just push at 90-95%, and then you get that extra little bit of performance whenever you have to navigate traffic, or you have to push for an in-lap or push for an out-lap to minimize the loss of time on pit lane. I am curious on something that I'm sure the ticker will show me. How many times has everyone pitted? Well, there's your answer. Dr. Chair, despite being one of the 3 fastest drivers in the GT category, has only made a single pit stop thus far. So that really strikes me as unique, because that suggests that Chair is putting a lot of extra fuel in that Porsche and then is burning it off. So the laps that we're seeing right now, he could potentially be going faster. Real quickly, someone asked what time Jarbs is at. As you can see on the sheets, Jarbs is at a 29.099 at the moment, the second fastest driver in the prototype category right now, also the second fastest Jaguar driver at the moment. And there you are, Stevie finally making his second pit stop of the session. Oh, I'm sorry, third pit stop of the session. Yeah, Dr. Chair, for whatever reason, has only made a single stop. I don't know if that fuel number is accurate, but he seems to be maybe using the session more as a practice for the race. He is not worried about anything. He still has a lot of fuel in the car, and his tires have a lot of wear on them as well. I'm not gonna lie though, if I was in Dr. Chair's position, I would be doing something very similar. Right now, you're at the top of the GT category. Might as well, instead of trying to bust your nuts. Not those nuts, I'm talking about the nuts in your head. Instead of trying to bust your cashews, trying to pull out a fantastic lap after lap after lap, Dr. Chair threw down with a fantastic lap early on, and now he just seems to be gaining an idea as to how the car handles as the tires burn up and as the fuel goes away. High likelihood we will not see him pit again for the rest of this session. And again, Dr. Chair is not alone. Remind you that Zoroiliak, who is currently the third fastest in the GT category, is his teammate. They are both in the number 90 Porsche right now. So we're going to ride on board for a full lap with Zoroiliak after a quick ad break. Trying to get these out of the way so they don't break in when something intense happens on circuit, if it happens on circuit. Well, welcome back to Daytona. And as we have returned to Daytona, literally as I said, I was going to pull away and try to get rid of one of the mandatory twist ads early on. All of a sudden, Zoroiliak pulled over and stopped very dramatically on the run out of the first infield hairpin before the infield kink. We have no idea why he stopped, why he pulled over, but he pulled over and stopped for about a good 3 to 4 seconds before moving again. And then he went very slow for the rest of the lap as well. It does look like he's actually trying to push now, but whatever it was that encouraged Zoroiliak to back down, he must have gotten over it. Maybe he was just trying to reset. Right now, he is the third fastest driver on the circuit when it comes to the GT category, as we ride on board with the one of the number 90 Porsches. You see Toast Lord YT, who is the slowest prototype, going by right now. A little less than 10 minutes left in the session. Like I said, we are going to spend the next lap on board, the next flying lap on board with Zoroiliak here. He does have the fuel and potentially the tire life to go for 2 or 3 more laps, so we're going to spend the next lap silently on board and see if you can get an idea as to what the difference in performance is like comparing a GT car to a prototype car, and one GT car in the Porsche compared to the GT of the Nissan here around Daytona. Just ride on board and listen. that did not go good. We're get going for the entire lap. It seems like Zeroliak is dealing with some significant handling issues. As you saw him get really sideways coming out of turn 1 and then completely wash out coming out of the first of the infield hairpins. So while Zeroliak may be the third fastest of our GT entrants right now, it is not coming easy. He is struggling trying to get performance out of that Porsche right now. Somebody who is not struggling quite nearly as much though, Dr. Cher, who's still the fastest in the GT category, has only made a single stop very early in the session and continues to pound out laps and has plenty of fuel left in the car. I think he's basically trying to emulate what a fuel and tire stint is going to be like in the event proper. While all this focus has been going on in the GT category, at the top, it is still PTG Little Caesar. He's been at the top pretty much since the start of the session. His best time, a 28.7. The best time for DMS Jarb, second fastest right now, is a 29 flat, so a 0.3 of a second gap. But the more significant thing, I would argue, I look at Blocktoberfest, who is in 8th in prototypes, 31.0. You do the math, 28.7 to 31 flat. That's a 2.3 second gap. I said earlier it was a 1.3. I'm sorry, it's a 2.3 second gap. That is a gigantic performance deficit between the fastest Jaguar and the fastest Porsche in the prototype category. And we will try to talk with Blocktoberfest later on to get an idea as to what the issue may have been. And as I say that, Fuego has finally done it. Fuego spent the last about 20 minutes behind Blocktoberfest on the time charts, but now Fuego has broken the 31 gap, a 30.963 in the Jaguar. It's just not looking great for Blocktoberfest. One thing that might be harming him, though, is the fact that right now the Porsches have not made nearly as many pit stops as the Jaguars, and it may be a case that the Porsche drivers are not pounding out as many low fuel, fresh tire laps. They may be committing 4 or 5 laps in a row, while the Jaguar drivers may only be committing to doing 2 or 3 laps in a row. There are exceptions. Obviously, SF Michaels has only made 2 pit stops thus far in the 39, almost 40 minutes we've been here right now. But I wonder if that may have something to do with it, the fact that the Porsches have made vastly fewer pit stops thus far. So SF Michaels, speaking of which, has pulled off to the side in his Jaguar, and it appears we see what the problem is there. He has emptied the car of fuel. I don't like this camera angle. I thought I would be able to actually go off circuit with this, and I can't. But SF Michaels in the number 97 Swordfish machine has run out of fuel and come to a stop in Speedway Turn 2. He's in the grass, so he's not going to have any issues. Oh, apparently Michaels is in the chat. I am sorry about that, Michaels. I will say, if you want, once qualifying is over, feel free to jump into the broadcast booth. I have the Xbox Party open, and you can feel free to jump in and talk real quickly about this session here. But it looks like Michael's time of 130.2 is the best it's going to get for him today, as NWR Origin is making another stop. Has EVR Cactus improved his time at all? Oh god, I hate this camera angle. Has EVR Cactus improved at all? He is at 143.3 at the moment, while Motoman, who is ahead of him, is at 143.3. So this fight between these two, the slowest two in the GT category right now, is really tight. 143.383 was Motoman's best, most recent lap, but Cactus right behind, 143.389. We're talking in the hundredths of a second. The big thing to remember, though, is that whoever the second driver is that's going to help qualifying these cars in a later session might be the big teller. If you've got a really middling qualifying effort from you, but you have someone else who is absolutely horrible at qualifying, you are toast. But at the same time, if you're not really having a great qualifying time, but someone else shows up and they are God, at laying down monster laps, they can automatically pull you up an entire lobby potentially. Usually it's not so much of an issue once you get to the A lobby or the B lobby level, but if you're a C lobby driver, a really good qualifying lap by your teammate could drag you to being a back marker in the B lobbies rather than being a front runner in the C lobbies. Only about 3 minutes left in the session. Little Caesar making another stop. Considering how long it takes, I'm going to be honest, Little Caesar is going to be trying to rush the flag, basically. I do not know if he's going to be able to pound out a blitzing lap here. He's only got not 10%, technically less than that, but 10% in the tank, so it's going to be interesting to see if Caesar can even get a flying lap. Once that race timer clock hits 15 minutes, session is over. You have to finish the lap you're on, so Little Caesar is going to be trying to outrun that clock. I have no doubt he'll get this outlap done, but the flyer after that is going to be a lot more up in the air. The big thing for me, though, Toaster Lord. Sorry, not Toaster Lord, sorry, Dr. Chair in the Porsche machine. 141.8 and has not worried about it since. He has just been continuing to plug away on tires and a full tank of fuel. So Dr. Chair could have set down a much faster time potentially. He has come into pit though for new tires in the last, actually just before he swapped to it, he came into pit for new tires. So is Dr. Chair now suddenly going to try and go a little faster? NWR Stevie, who is the second fastest in the GTO category, is pitting now, but with 1 minute and 30 left in the session, Stevie is not going to be able to go any faster. The big thing for Dr. Chair, his teammate Zororliak is buried behind him. Chair's best lap, 141.8. Zororliak's best lap, though, is a 142.1. You average it together, it's like a low 140.19. If Chair can get some time out, though, it could drag their team up to a better lobby, and if not a better lobby, potentially a better qualifying spot in the lobby they're going to be in. We don't know yet. What we do know, though, is Dr. Chair is going to make it to the start-finish line in time to bang out one flying lap. Let's just watch this as we come to the end of the qualifying session. Oh! And he's over. And that's a lap aborted. That lap is toast. So while Dr. Chair has been the fastest of the GT drivers in this session, a slide out of the bus stop chicane and a roll midair shows that that Porsche is not easy to drive by any metric. In the end, credit where credit's due, Blocktoberfest did squeak his way back by Fuego in the times with a 130.4, while Fuego's best lap was stuck at a 130.9. But right now, it is PTG Little Caesar who is at the top of the timesheets. We're going to take one final ad break, and then we're going to try and reach out for some interviews to a few drivers we're curiously hearing from. All right, and that has been the conclusion of our session here. Don't know if anyone's going to actually be willing to jump in and talk immediately post-race. It's worth throwing the invite out, though, as the session winds down to a close. Almost all the Jaguar drivers, with only a few exceptions, immediately backed out right after the session came to a close, so that's interesting, but we got a moderately good idea as to what the times were. Next qualifying session will be, I will not be covering it, will be in about 5 hours. That will be Q2. I know there are several LMP drivers showing up for that, so you'll start to see some of the more powerful teams representing in the next session. But for right now, PTG Little Caesar is the fastest of the prototypes, and it is the number 90 Porsche being shared by Zeriliak and Dr. Chair. That is the fastest GT entry thus far.
Race ends in 10 minutes.
Does look like Oktoberfest has run himself out of fuel. Now he's just kind of cruising around the circuit at this point. He'll have enough to make it back to the pits if he so chooses, but a lot of drivers right now just circling the circuit, just trying to bang out a few extra laps here. Wait, is he in the party? Doesn't look like he's in the party. I sent an invite. I sent invites out. I don't know why it didn't work. Apparently people are saying they were looking for invites, and I sent invites out, and they didn't work, apparently. Oh, I'm apparently in a party. What? Oh my goodness. Ah, hello? Can you hear me? I'm sorry, Xbox was doing those weird mess-up things. I apologize for that very much.
That's okay.
I'll start off with SF Michaels. Let me double-check and make sure Xbox didn't screw up the stream as well. And make sure you can actually... Okay, you should be able to include your audio. I'll start with SF Michaels. Michaels, go ahead, make sure your audio is included. Interesting qualifying session for you because you ran out of fuel and did not get to run the entire time. Do you think you could have improved if you were able to keep pounding laps out?
Probably not. Because, to be honest, obviously I did practice earlier on and in the build up to this session, and mid-30s was the personal best. So to get a low 30 I was already quite happy with that. And I basically had to pause the game and do something, and then as I was running out of fuel, and it just ground me to a halt on the grass, and I basically couldn't move after that, since I was stuck there. But yeah, try as I might, I couldn't get into the 29s. I kept nailing the first 2 sectors, and then I get to the bus stop, and then just couldn't get anything quicker there. So I'm relatively happy. It's just now what my other teammates are going to do, because we're all kind of around about the same kind of pace, kind of mid to low 30s. So yeah.
What lobby are you? What lobby? Assuming it's a 4 or 5 lobby event, what lobby are you guys aiming to end up in? Realistically.
Yeah, I mean, us at Swordfish, we got I think it's Docs, Unku, and one other, I can't remember, in another Jaguar, and they're like a little bit faster than us. So they're probably going to be like B, maybe C lobby, and we're kind of hoping to maybe be in the same, maybe C/D lobby. So at the end of the day, we're just here for experience and just for the fun of it as well. I mean, one of my teammates is doing his first event in like, I think it's 2 years. So just to get him back and this sort of things. But yeah, around about C, maybe D lobby. We'll just see how it goes. I think still very, very early days.
Alright, well, in that circumstance, I might end up talking to you again, depending on how your results are in the TORA 24 stints in the future. But thanks for jumping in and talking with us, Michaels. Now I want to go ahead and talk with PTG Little Caesar. Little Caesar, you're probably not going to be showing up tomorrow for the ISC GT season finale, but we got a free interview in with you this week anyway. Absolutely dominated qualifying here. What do you have to say about that run out there? You just laid the smash down on everyone today. Caesar? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, think he's connected. He's got a lead party or...
I hear him now. Can you hear me? Caesar?
I think you can... No. Yeah, I can hear. So the first 15 minutes, I got that point.
It is currently saying my privacy settings are preventing me from talking to him. I don't know what that means.
That's very weird. Check to see if you're online or not. Maybe that has something to do with it. Huh. Typical Xbox party having an issue. Little Caesar, try leaving and rejoining. Hello? Alright. Let's see if this fixed the party at all. Blocktoberfest, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Alright, we'll go ahead and talk with you. The good news, you're the fastest of all the Porsche drivers. The bad news is you are the nowhere near to the top. You're over 2 seconds adrift right now off of the fastest time. What do you think the problem is? Do you think it's a car balancing issue? Do you think it was a bad tuning? Do you think the problem was sitting right behind the driver's steering wheel? Where do you think the issue was that kept you from being up at the front with that dominant, well, traditionally a dominant Porsche? Oh. Has it crashed again? It has crashed again. Okay. My entire Xbox has crashed. I apologize for that. Yeah, so I guess with that, I'm going to have to cut this short and end the session here. I do apologize. But thank you, everyone, for joining us. Well, I'm going to try here. Let's see here. Nope, it's over. I apologize, but it seems like Xbox has crashed. I apologize. But anyways, in about 5 hours or so, you'll be able to see another round of TORA's Daytona 24-hour qualifying. That'll be a little bit later on. I encourage you to check that out when you can. But until then, I've been your host, InsaneLayer13. Thank you very much for joining us. And I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow for the ISC GT3 season finale at Nürburgring Nordschleife. Until then, farewell and goodbye.